Right, good morning, everybody. Well, no, it's afternoon to most of you. To me, it's very early in the morning. Um, this is a very strange time we're in, but it has given the opportunity for me to join from the other side of the world. And that is a great advance so that we can really all come together to understand what these birds are doing when they're migrating halfway around the world from people all around the world. So when we're all working together, we are trying to save some of these species, both the really rare ones like the spoon-billed sandpiper that I'm talking about today, but the spoon-billed sandpiper is the first of many that will go the same way if we do not actually find ways to ensure that they can migrate halfway around the world in future years. So I am working very much as part of a massive team of people who have come together, having realized that species like the slender-billed curlew have gone extinct, despite the slender-billed curlew occurring in part of the world where there are lots of people who have been studying it for many years. And a decade or more ago, things suddenly ramped up when the realization was that we would lose this iconic bird if we didn't do something very dramatic about it very quickly. So in 2012, we started a program of individually leg flagging spoon-billed sandpipers, initially on the breeding grounds, but then in a small number of other sites. This has been an extremely difficult task because with so few birds left, actually managing to find them is a challenge, and then managing to catch them amongst the vast flocks of the more common species has been a real challenge. However, we have managed to mark about 400 so far over the last decade, and this has enabled us to work out estimates of the size of the population over time. And the striking thing from this graph is that with all the surveys that we have done, looking at where our marked birds have turned up and the proportion of them in the population, that the spoon-billed sandpiper is still declining at something like 8% per year. That means, despite all the efforts that we have gone to, if we don't do something quite dramatic, the species will be extinct in something like another 15 years' time. So we don't have long to turn things around. This graph was produced by large numbers of people going out, doing surveys in a number of different sites. Each different symbol on this graph is a different site, and what it is showing is the estimate of the world population from working out precisely the proportion of color-marked birds that are being seen in the field. To do this, we need to do it with basically people changing their normal habits and doing things that are very difficult. Every time observers who are collecting data for this are seeing a spoon-billed sandpiper, they are recording it. Even if the flock lifts off and lands again, they will record that as a new sighting. Not, oh, that's the bird I just saw. This means that you have to follow very strict protocols to get this data. But when we have sorted out the way of doing this, it's produced some very powerful estimates, and it says the population is in trouble. So from our color marked birds that we have marked, a large number in Jiangsu and even more on the breeding grounds at one site, Minor Pilgener, we see about 80% of the birds that are known to be alive each year. Most of these birds are seen at the site they were marked the following year. A few are seen at other times of year in other places. But why don't we see all of them elsewhere? It may be that the observers out there only manage to see on each site half or more of the spoon-billed sandpipers that are there. That is possible, but the alternative is that there are sites that spoon-billed sandpipers are at different times of year that we still don't know at the moment. So in 2016, when Microwave produced a tiny 2-gram satellite transmitter, we decided we had to put a small number of these tags on birds to try and work out where birds were at the times of year we're missing them. So this is the first bird that we marked, ET, and the tags weigh about 4 to 5% of body weight, which is above what we would want to put on a bird. And for that reason, we glue mounted the tags to the back so that they would stay on until the birds go through their next molt, at which point, when they shed their feathers, they shed the tag as well. So we encumber them for a short period of their life. So in 2016, we managed to mark 3 birds with tags. The first bird to migrate from Jiangsu was HU, which, to be very honest, went in a very strange trajectory, and we were extremely concerned about that. However, having got out into the East China Sea, it suddenly turned and went to a site which was previously known in southern China and stayed there for the winter. The next bird to migrate was CT, which migrated to a site where we never knew spoon-billed sandpipers occurred. And I can remember as soon as it arrived there, the Chinese ornithologists all said, no, there won't be spoon-billed sandpipers there. However, when they went out on the first day to find the bird, they didn't find it, but they found 3 other spoon-billed sandpipers and 3,000 small waders using the site. They also found very large numbers of mist nets that, after a series of rapid conversations, the following morning, the authorities went and removed all the mist nets from the site and made clear that there should be no more illegal mist netting on the site. So that was a conservation win and finding a new site. ET went the longest distance, most of it in one big hop, and ended up in the Gulf of Mottama, where we know spoon-billed sandpipers winter. So what happened to HU? It's very simple. When you overlay the weather on, at the time the bird was migrating, it flew round a very large cyclone, and it was making adjustments for the weather, but because we were on the other side of the world at the time, we didn't realize that. Here is HU this autumn, back, having shed its tag long ago. It is going back each winter to the same site it wintered before. So this has now led us with 14 birds that we have data for in autumn and winter, that birds have moved through a large number of sites. We have tagged birds both in China and on the breeding grounds. And about half the sites that birds have stopped at were not known before as spoon-billed sandpipers stopover or wintering sites. So that is fantastic data. And more to the point, only 2 of the 7 birds that we had tags on in winter went to sites that were previously known. And that was ET and HU. 3 of the 5 new sites have been visited by people at the time the tagged birds were there. And 2 of the 3 sites that were visited had multiple spoon-billed sandpipers wintering. So we could tag more birds and we would still expect to find more wintering sites. We can find out more than just where the bird's going. Here is a plot of the latitude of ET when it was in the Gulf of Mottama. So this is a timeline through the winter and the distance up and down. And if I overlay the map of Mottama on this data, you can see the bird was moving up and down the estuary and going 40 kilometers north to south during the monthly cycle of spring and neap tides, showing the need for the very large Ramsar site that has been made there.
Sorry to interrupt, Doctor. Is that 2 minutes?
2 minutes.
So.
Thank you. Here we are with KY that we marked in 2019. It went to Vietnam to a new site, and you can see that it moved around. This is only a few kilometers, and it's its movements between spring and neap and high and low tide. So we can actually begin to understand where birds are actually feeding, as well as when we can just see them at high tide. So all the birds that we have had have provided data that's helped understand the conservation needs. What do we do next? We need to tag more birds in autumn to look at wintering sites, and more birds, we need to find places to tag them in winter so that we can find them in spring. And when we can get the tags even smaller, we would like to tag birds in spring so we can understand where birds are migrating through on the way up to their breeding site. And we still know nothing about juveniles. So with that, that's a rapid run through of what we have learned so far from satellite tags, and I hope we will learn more in the future. Thank you.